All right, that's true. Let's jump in. Here's Nikki, okay? So y'all wait another 30 seconds while people are logging in.
Not bad for 102, huh?
Not bad.
Yeah, you
Not bad. And I should probably
cracking the
tr
whip, getting people on time.
yeah. When you tell people they're going to get $50,000, they tend to show up
Show
on
up.
time.
Yeah. And if not,
Then
hey, I can't help you.
then
Yeah.
this is part of the screening. We look to see who logged in late. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course, there's
We're
no
kidding. We're
scoring
just
assist.
kidding.
I should mention, out of disclosure, Betty Shotton is a dear friend, mentor, advisor. She is on the board of Optimist Ventures on the for-profit side, not the nonprofit grant side. The nonprofit grant side stays within the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to show you that flow chart shortly. Um, and Betty's also on our selection committee this year. So we're glad to have Betty. So if you're looking to bribe somebody, you can
I'm,
find Betty. She likes traveling
I'm
and
not, I'm not bribable. I'm bribable with half and half iced tea.
that's all it takes. All
That's
right.
all it takes. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Um, okay, I'm going to jump in. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for being part of our Optimist Ventures webinar. Today, we're going to focus a lot on the CDBG-DR. That's Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery component of Optimist Ventures. This is new for us. So we've been around for a year. We had our first cohort of 7 companies last year. Each one received essentially the same thing that you could receive, which was a $25,000 grant and a $25,000 shared profit agreement. Now that we have federal funding behind the grants for the next 30 companies, there's a lot more regulation, compliance, and things to be aware of in the application process and use of funds. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about the CDBG requirements. However, this presentation should cover everything about Optimist Ventures. It's only 24 slides. They'll be online as well as this recording afterwards. Um, Normally, I would do a lot of like icebreakers and get to know everybody on the call, but we're going to skip that today and jump right in to Optimist Ventures. So we're now a $2 million fund and accelerator. Each company receives $50,000, half as a grant, half as a shared profit agreement. And our thesis, which we'll spend more time discussing, is tech-enabled WNC businesses or lifestyle ventures. This is very different than you'll find most accelerators and incubators or even support programs. Um, this is actually a departure from the original Venture Asheville thesis of high growth startups, tech companies. But after 12 years of Venture Asheville, we've learned there's more to our ecosystem, more we can serve, and therefore we're trying to do both. So we still have programs and events and activities for the high growth ecosystem. This is going a bit broader for tech enabled businesses. So we're going to discuss that more deeply if I can make sure I'm. Can you see my screens, my slides? Have it set up that way? Okay. Taking a real big step back, how we got here was the understanding that all entrepreneurial ecosystems are typically built on values reflective of VC and angel economics. Another way to talk about this is VC power laws. So maybe you've heard this cliche that as an angel investor, you'll make 10 investments. You can expect 9 to fail and 1 to be such a big exponential win, a unicorn win, that it covers all of your losses and makes you and all your LPs and the founders very wealthy. And the math actually kind of supports that if you're betting on the right kind of high growth companies. However, as an economic developer and someone in community development here in town, working for the Economic Development Coalition of Asheville Buncombe County, if I told you I got 10 companies in the program this year, but 9 are going to fail, you would consider that to be a pretty poor metric of the job we're doing as economic developers. Our job is to maximize wins. Our job is to increase the quality and standard of living for as many people as we can impact in our region. Excuse me. What really dawned on me was this inflection point. This is pre-hurricane, that the companies that thrive here, that do really well, don't fit the VC power law economics. They're companies that create jobs and grow and build in our community, but they may not be seeking an exit. They may not be looking for an IPO or a buyout. They want to stay around and keep doing good work and creating great jobs in our community. And when I moved here about 10 years ago, and you probably have heard something similar, it's Asheville's going to be the next Austin. Asheville can be the next Boulder. And those communities, they want to be the next RTP, Raleigh-Durham. And Raleigh-Durham wants to be the next Boston. And Boston wants to be the next Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley, let's see if anyone can fill in the blank, wants to be the next what? Religion.
We
That's
knew that.
That's one of my go-to jokes. I hope you liked it. If you like that style of joke, you'll love the Optimist Ventures Accelerator. So my feeling is that all that time, we really should have been figuring out what do we do here well? How do we foster that instead of trying to import a venture building, ecosystem building strategy into our community? We should be fostering what works and grows here and find that gap between where we are, where we want to be, and nurturing those instead of dropping in another playbook from another community into Asheville. Again, typically those VC angel economics are pushing an all or nothing unicorn or bust approach to venture building, not winning on what works. We're supporting sustainable growth at tech-enabled long-term ambitious companies using our SPA note, the shared profit agreement. We'll talk about those economics shortly. And we're really trying to focus again on growth and consistency, as local author Brad Stolberg talks about it, sustaining excellence. That's our mission with Optimist Ventures, which is different from the rest of Venture Asheville, and different than the rest of the venture ecosystem world. Sustaining excellence, not scaling for scale's sake and hoping there's a buyer at the end. Let's talk more about what the heck a tech-enabled lifestyle venture is. So to define it, businesses that are not tech companies but use tech. There's a way to argue that every company is a tech-enabled venture. Some lean into it more than others. Here's some questions you should be asking yourself. Are you using technology as a tool, not necessarily the product? So you can building a business that leverages software, automation, AI, e-commerce, digital marketing, companies that can scale regionally without requiring significant outside venture capital. Ventures where innovation occurs through the business model, not through proprietary technology. So a good example here is Dairy Vegan Cheese. They're one of our cohort 1 companies, came out of our Elevate program as well. She uses cashews. This isn't really a secret, but what makes the fermentation process of dairy vegan cheese so good is its true fermentation. It's not on dairy product, it's on cashews, which leads to the same kind of creaminess, umami that you get from a good cheese, you get from her dairy vegan cheese. So it's that blending a traditional industry with a modern technology. With our investment from last cohort, she went really hard into online branding, her online presence, and e-commerce, which is great. She's got her Whole Foods regions, she's got local retailers, but the margins are much better when you go direct to consumer. So with our funding, we helped her grow that side of her business. Couple more examples. And this screenshot is from one of our other companies, Carolina Flowers. We invested in them last year as well. It's a flower farm. Typically not a venture backable company, not something an angel will be interested in. However, her investment in, again, e-commerce, online ordering, their, what do they call it? Not loyalty program, subscriptions, and building a new greenhouse were part of the investment she used from us. So examples, artisan food companies using e-commerce and AI-driven inventory management, an outdoor recreation business, typically not tech, but could be very tech-enabled the more they use technology to enable and automate booking and memberships, waivers, all that kind of stuff. You know what a pain it is to go like rafting and you gear up and you got to sign 100 waivers, go through all that paperwork. Make a better customer experience through technology. That's tech enablement. We like it. Um, Even professional services firms leveraging AI and workflow software are tech enabled. I'm going to talk about online training concepts from last cohort, a tech services company that uses really, really smart workflows to work with clients to get better business. Um, and then, yeah, the last bullet, building a brand through online sales, subscription, and digital communities. We've got someone who's applying this year. I don't want to say too much. It's in the trades. All the trades are going down in employment and down in new business starts. What this fellow's doing is the only thing he touches is when he comes to your property for service. It could be a cabinet maker, an electrician, a carpenter, a pressure washer, a gutter cleaning installation service, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a trade, right? Or plumber. The only thing this guy touches is when he's at your house. Everything else is automated through AI. So it's a small business getting bids out faster, getting invoices out faster, getting the payments in faster, getting new jobs faster. Ton of AI and automation around a very manual labor type business. So he's applying this modern technology to a traditional business. That's a tech-enabled lifestyle venture for us. Our cohort one companies include Asheville Tea Company, Carolina Flowers, Dairy Vegan Cheese, French Broad Pastry, Legally Addictive Foods, Matcha Nude, and Online Training Concepts. You're probably saying, hey, 6 out of 7 of those are food companies. And I'd say, yeah, they are. That's just kind of how the cohort broke down. We're taking on 33 more companies over the next 3 years, and we would look to diversify, that concentration of food and beverage CPG companies. Another facet that you may not realize, 6 out of 7 are female-founded companies. As a fun fact for you. So we had this structure set up before Hurricane Helene, this idea of a GP-LP fund to be $1 million to use a shared profit agreement, and we hadn't launched before the hurricane. Post-hurricane, a couple of days after that, we got a call from Ginger Frank at Poppy Popcorn, and she wanted to start a grant fund. And I said, that's great. We're doing an investment fund. Maybe there's a way to work together. It's a very short version. And we came to splitting our fund from being a purely general partner, limited partner, so like a fund manager and investors that put money in, to a hybrid venture philanthropy fund where half of the initial million was raised from foundations, donations, grant programs. The other half we raised from high net worth individuals, limited partners. And then recently, the city of Asheville awarded us $855,000 to extend our grant program. So we're fully funded on the grant side for 40 companies. Again, we've invested in 7 thus far. And then we took the other half that was replaced by grants, or then we only had to raise half the money. So uh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So now when you get investment from Optimist Ventures, you get the grant from the City of Asheville Disaster Recovery Funds. We have a little bit of money, like for 3 companies that are not CDBGDR funds. So if you are outside of Asheville city limits, you can qualify for those and everything else will follow. And then your other check is funded by private investment. So I want to break down the differences between the grant funding and the SPA note. For the 3 spots that were open for non-City of Asheville companies, it's a little irrelevant, but bear with me while I get through this. Uh, when we award a company, it'll be a $25,000 grant that is non-repayable. That is yours. There are very explicit uses of funds. They are reimbursement based. So those could be expenses you have suffered as a result of the hurricane, or it could be new equipment or something new you're buying or a new job you're creating that we would then reimburse you for in the future. We have mechanisms for that. Everything in the CDBG category must have a disaster tieback. And there are lots and lots and lots of ways to argue that. So one being you got laid off post-hurricane, started a new company, you qualify. Did you lose revenue? Did you lose customers? Did you lose inventory? Could you not get shipments in because you had no loading dock and the highways were closed? You have a disaster tieback. Did you have no water or power and couldn't serve anybody? That's a disaster tieback. Did you lose employees because they had to move? Disaster tieback. And all that is funded by your federal government's Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's HUD. So you hear that thrown around. and the specific program under HUD is the CDBG-DR program. Separately, we have a separate, so CDBG, that's all the federal funding. That sits under the Chamber's nonprofit. Separately, we created a for-profit entity from separate investors with separate management structure and separate governance, separate boards, separate banks, separate bank accounts. It's totally isolated. They are separate programs that happen to fund an entrepreneur at the same time. So it's separate, but together. Can I get a nod if that makes sense from folks? Okay. I have to be really, really clear about that because that's where we get in hot water with commingling funds and where we might, just we don't want to confuse people. So it's the same amount of money. It's $25,000. And in fact, those checks are right there against my wall. You can see one of those right there. The paper, those giant cardboard checks are great for photos. You can't actually cash those. So we give you a paper check you can deposit from your phone. Anyway, the $25,000 SPA note stands for Shared Profit Agreement, and you make repayments every quarter for 6 years. Unrestricted use of funds. This is a private investment, and it's funded entirely, no, almost entirely by local investors. With some of the podcasts I've been on lately, we're getting investors from across the state now, which is fantastic to see some people from Charlotte putting money into Asheville companies. We do love that, but you should know the vast, vast majority of the funding is coming from our community, coming from people here who want to see the money go to work here. We're going to talk about allowable uses of funds under the CDBG-DR grant program. Working capital, operational continuity, inventory replacement, equipment purchase or repair. There is an asterisk here. It needs to be movable equipment. So that's the difference between a truck and a greenhouse. Shane, does that make sense? A truck is movable, a greenhouse is not. Okay, thank you. You can even get mortgage assistance, disaster-related technology or service upgrades. I anticipate seeing a lot of those. Business planning, strategic recovery guidance. So if you need to hire consultants to help you get through a nasty bump in the road. Marketing, communications, customer outreach services. A lot of things can fall under marketing and outreach. Of course, e-commerce, technology adoption, financial literacy, budgeting, post-disaster restructuring, and another big one, support to reestablish disrupted business services. So I can't imagine any business services were not disrupted post-Hurricane Helene. Shifting gears now, again, separate program offered together, the shared profit agreement. So you get $25,000 on the shared profit agreement, and then you pay back a sliding scale, a minimum of $6,000, maximum $9,000 a year for 6 years. That sliding scale is a portion of net profit. Anything under $120,000 in net profit, it could be zero profit, is a $6,000 a year repayment. And then it's a sliding scale. It caps at $180,000, where you never pay more than $9,000 a year. Most founders will pay $36,000. At these early stages of young businesses we're supporting, we don't anticipate people to be really, really flush with cash and profit at the end of the year. And the more net profit you have, the more taxable income you have. So we want you to reduce that and keep it low. Bonus yourself out, take care of your employees, reinvest it in the business. There's lots of ways to recirculate that capital. We want you to be under 120,000. Taken together, it's an effective interest rate of negative 10%. You get 50,000 up front and pay back 36. If you looked at it as just the SPA note, it would be a 13% interest rate, right? You're getting 25 and paying back 36, but you really got to look at it in concert as both these are funding you at the same time. Meanwhile, our investors, well, I'm going to skip that because we're not talking about investors today. I want to be really transparent about our flow of capital because this is very complicated on how we're funded, how we work. We are a nonprofit. We have a for-profit. It's a lot to keep track of. So let me walk through this real quickly. If you look at the top left side, the nonprofit funding, there's 4 really main areas of grant dollars that have supported Optimist Ventures. Dogwood Health Trust, Truist Foundation, the City of Asheville, CDBGDR funds, and miscellaneous donations from individuals, investors, Poppy Popcorn, Bank of America, Mountain BizWorks, NC Idea. All of that, every nonprofit tax-deductible dollar goes to our Community Betterment Foundation. That is the nonprofit of the Chamber of Commerce. That flows funding down to the EDC, and Venture Asheville is at the bottom there. We are one of the initiatives of the EDC of the five. We also got a special ARC Arise grant last year, which allowed us to hire Matt Godfrey full-time. We continue our existing body of work and then add here the Optimist Ventures Accelerator. So all activity for Optimist Ventures comes from the Venture Asheville side of the nonprofit. All activities, the outreach, the marketing, the expenses on having our accelerator days, the creating the fund, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, hosting the accelerator, our learning management system, the curriculum, all of that is through the nonprofit. Our 501c3 created its own C Corp. So the fund side of things for the for-profit is wholly owned by a charitable nonprofit. That itself is pretty unique. Under that C Corp, we have Fund 1 and Fund 2. Each of those are $500,000 funds. Together, it's $1 million to match the $1 million in grants. Each of the funds are broken down to these $25,000 SPA notes. And then we invest $2 million into 40 companies over 4 years. So we have room for 13 companies this cohort. We'll take on 10 next year in 2027 and 10 the year after that in 2028. Let's talk about eligibility. Sound good? Thumbs up, move on. We have time for questions at the end. So you need to be eligibility means having a minimum $150,000 in revenue, max 2 million. You have to pledge to participate in our accelerator. So it's not just getting a check and walking away. It is participating 1 full day a week for 12 weeks. We'll be at 7 acres, again, right behind. I think those are our windows, Shane, or your windows? Would that be our space or your space? That's yours. So we'll be just further up from you. No, thank you, Shane. Yes, those will be your doorway and picnic tables at 7 acres. Shane, I need you on every webinar. You're the best assistant ever. And you got to show how using technology to enable that sustainable growth. Again, how are you tech enabled? Real tricky one. You got to maintain a principal place of business within the Asheville city limits. We have a whole bunch of definitions as to that. You have to be independently owned and operated. You could be a franchisee, but you're not dominant in your field. And honestly, we typically don't work with franchises or licenses. We're looking for natively built, homegrown headquarter companies. To talk about what is considered a principal place of business in Asheville gets tricky because, for example, Matcha Newt, who we invested in last cohort, so this didn't apply to her. For example, though, she lives in Arden. Her factory is in Arden. She sources from Japan. Not really an Asheville-based business. However, the majority of the core business operations do happen in the city of Asheville. Most of her accounts and most of her revenue come from city of Asheville. So we have a way to kind of draw a narrative to argue it's a Asheville-based business. Or think about a maker who lives in Waynesville, Haywood County, and they come into town 3 times a week for farmers markets. We can count that because this location, I'm in the second sentence here, this location, where the applicant regularly conducts core business operations, controlled, leased, or owned by the applicant. So if you have a booth at a farmer's market, or you have a flex desk at 7 acres, you are in the city limits. And we can count that as a principal place of business. There's other ones, like if you have payroll in the city, we can look at that and see, oh, you are employing people in the city of Asheville. And we will work through those with you. So if you're kind of on the bubble, talk to us, send me an email, talk to me. And when your application process, we'll make sure that it's justifiable. Other ways to be eligible in the city limits. Where do your day-to-day operations happen? So let's say you have a flex desk at 7 acres, you're paying a couple $100 a month for a desk. Is that where you make management decisions? Is that where you keep employees, production, services, deliveries? Um, and do you generate business revenue tied to the Asheville disaster area? So supporting documentation could be leases, utility bills, business license, sales tax related to that address, and again, payroll. So for example, a local artist, creator, or vendor who operates within a city storefront, a retail outfitter who suffered inventory loss and reduced tourism after severe flooding. For example, you might be a Asheville-based tour company, but you don't do tours in Asheville. We could still count that. Um, Small manufacturing or craft production business with roof or equipment damage, an outdoor company unable to operate due to damaged waterways or damaged trails, a manufacturing facility rehiring LMI workers. We're going to talk about LMI in just a moment. Food processor or packaging business restoring disaster-related job losses, or really any kind of company creating new LMI jobs. LMI stands for low moderate income, which I think Asheville is about $60,000. So if you're creating a job 60,000 or under in Asheville, you qualify. There are also ineligible businesses. We got to touch on these. Nonprofits can't do it. And this is from CDBGDR. This isn't from like my personal wish because some of these would qualify if it was a Jeffrey program, but it's not the Jeffrey program. It's a CDBGDR program. Real estate investment holdings, can't use our funding for that. Short-term rentals, residential properties, can't use that. Political or lobbying organizations, also a no. Cannabis-related operations, sorry, Shane, no CBD shops. Adult entertainment businesses, sorry, Betty, no adult entertainment businesses. Um, Again, corporate-owned national franchises or chains. And this one, I need to be really clear on. If you are listed in sam.gov as suspended, debarred, or otherwise ineligible. So if you do not have a sam.gov registration, they're free. You get a UEI number, unique employer identification number. You have to have that to apply. So as long as you're in good standing, you'll be in good shape. But if you don't have that, you can't apply for our programs. Go online to sam.gov and register for a UEI number. That's true for the Mountain BizWorks, RTFO, and Eagle Market Streets grants. Anything coming from a CDBG program, you must have a sam.gov number. So don't wait till the last. I'd hate for someone to be at the application, be like, oh, I'm done with the application. I hit the deadline. I just don't have my SAM number. There's nothing we can do. This is federal money, so we have to have you with a SAM number. A lot of compliance and underwriting goes into the CDBG-DR grant dollars, such as a disaster tieback review. Again, that's in narrative form. So it'll be a paragraph explaining how the hurricane messed you up. Duplication of benefit screening. You are eligible to win our grant as well as the AshevilleRecoversTogether.org grant. It's up to us to make sure there's no duplication of benefits. That also extends to FEMA, SBA dollars, or other kind of assistance you may have had, insurance, after the hurricane. So we have to screen those out and make sure you're not double dipping with federal money for something that's already been paid for. So the documentation you'll see in the application includes insurance claims, SBA, FEMA disclosures, contractor estimates and invoices. Let's say you fronted the money for a driveway that was washed out and you want to get reimbursed for that. You have to show us the before and after photos and the invoices or receipts from the builder. A 12-month pro forma, that's really important for our program because we're looking at a 6-year repayment timeline, and then payroll job documentation if you're citing any job losses for your use of funds. All of this is online. We have in our application on optimistventures.co. You will find the preview of the application. The application itself is in type form, so it does save and store it in your browser. So if you go to other machines, it won't save. So if you start it in your browser, you can finish it in your browser. Otherwise, use our PDF preview on our site to go through the application let us know about questions you have beforehand. We're going to talk more about the LMI, LMC, LMA, LMM. So we anticipate most of the companies to qualify under the LMC program, they call Path A. That is having 5 or fewer employees, including the owner. Um, so this is really stuff for our end. I don't want to spend too much time on here, but if you're 5 or under, know that that's a very easy application for you, not application screening for you. And then there's LMJ. Are you creating or retaining jobs at that 60,000 or below mark? If so, that's our second path, LMJ. So eligible uses of funds, we talked about this earlier, everything from payroll, inventory, equipment, lease obligations, working capital, professional services, other approved stabilization expenses. I loved seeing working capital in there because a good entrepreneur can make anything into working capital. So it's good to know that your use of funds can just be working capital for a few goals and you have a lot of runway there to use it as you feel necessary. As far as governance controls, it's a lot more than it was last year. So you have to submit receipts. If you're buying equipment, you have to submit the 3 bids you received. All of this will be handled in our onboarding week, which is going to be August 14th, a week before the accelerator starts. And that's going to go through, like, once you're in the program, we're going to keep you in. We're going to work with you to make sure every document is done right. So nobody gets a letter from the government asking for their money back, and I don't have to go to jail. You see what I do for the community? Really putting myself out there, guys. We built a compliance command center using Claude. Shane, you like that? Um, do you want to see if it's going to work? Let's see. Let me try to drag it over here. So there's 2 logins. One's for city staff and me to log in, and one is for the good people like you to log into. And when you go here, you can select, do you have a principal place of interest in Asheville? Do you meet this? Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, when you go through all these, you'll see your results. You know what? You get it, right? You're going to see results and it'll guide you on how to be in compliance. That is not live yet. That'll be on our website very shortly. Um, Government doesn't move at the speed of Venture Asheville. And so we roll out a lot, needs to be approved and checked, and then we can put it online. So this is one of those things that's going through reviews. Let's go through the timeline. Application support is available. If you want to talk through your application or specific questions, do reach out. It is a priority to make sure you have every question answered. The application deadline is July 17th, which is at about 3.5 weeks away. And then our team, me, Betty, and a whole bunch of others are going to go real quick through screening and scoring so that the week of July 28th, we can announce finalists and have them come in for 5-minute pitches August 3rd through 6th. Betty, clear your calendar. And then we can talk about it offline, of course. August 7th, we will have announcements of who is in cohort 2. I'm sorry, we're not going to be an announcement. We'll let you know if you're accepted in cohort 2. And then, it happens that people don't accept the funding or the money or the accelerator. And so we have to pivot from there. We'll finish it up that week. August 14th week, we will have the onboarding. There's signing of paperwork like the grant agreement, the SPA note, and of course, how to use our LMS, everything like that. The following week, August 20th, we start the accelerator, and then we'll see you every Thursday through November 20th. Any eagle-eyed calendar folks will know that's 14 weeks, and this has been advertised as a 12-week accelerator. What gives? Well, there's 2 breaks in there. So we're not going to make you go 12 weeks straight through school. You get 2 breaks in the middle. Okay, that's it. Those are my slides. In our remaining time, I'm happy to answer questions. If you don't want to ask them publicly, send me a note, jkaplan@ventureasheville.com.
Hi, Jeffrey. This is Joelle Godwin. It's nice. Thank you for presenting this. I really appreciate it. I'm a new business started post-Helene, started this year, quite frankly,
Yeah.
but in Asheville, and I am focusing on a gap by something that I was thinking about starting before the hurricane. The hurricane threw my timeline way off. So it is addressing something I saw as a need in the Asheville community, but even more so since the hurricane. And I'm wondering, so it's communication skills around dating and in-person dating. Although I do see a tech component for that, I do not believe in the dating apps. I don't think they're addressing what we need. And I've gotten some feedback and had a couple of events, but I'm brand new. So is this something that I should file away information for later, or what would be your take on timing?
My So being a new business is fine. There is a minimum revenue requirement of $150,000. So that's the first thing. Um, the second thing is probably more important. Can you justify a disaster tieback to your new business? So the example I gave in the talk in the presentation was a fellow who was laid off from his job as a result of company-wide layoffs post-hurricane, and starting a business for his own, personal income and independence. So there's going to be there's got to, we can, I don't know, we can talk about that maybe. How do you justify it? Um, Thirdly, happy to talk to you about dating sites, and I will sell you one with a fantastic patent on matchmaking. For those who don't know, I used to have a dating site that is out of business. And yeah.
Question.
Yes, Betty.
Um, so when the are the is the selection and the accelerator program, is the CDBGR and the SPA for purposes of that process all together at the same time? And so when you're selecting, you it, as a selector, you are directing which way people are going, or people come. In other
So
words, it's all done at the same time.
it's all done at the same time.
Okay,
And other than place of business, because again, we have 3 grants available for outside of Asheville companies from prior funding rounds.
right,
You have to meet all the CDBG-DR requirements to
right.
qualify for both. So we keep it the same. So it makes it an easier decision for us to make one decision, and both opportunities are open for that founder.
What about the grants from Venture Asheville, the flat out 25 grand that you don't ever have to pay back? Where does that fit into this?
So we still have 3 of those available,
Just three.
those 3.
Okay,
And the remaining 750 or so it's all CDBG-DR grants.
okay, all right. I have some questions for you on like finances and stuff, but we can do that later.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Hi, Amy.
Yes,
Yeah.
hi. Yes, my name is Amy Kemp. So when you have that $150,000 income, minimum income, what years are you looking at? Say a company's been in business for 10 years and they're trying to move in a different direction or whatever, but their income fluctuates over that time. Is
Um,
there, what year are
if
you
if the
looking at for the
business has been
income?
around for about 10 years, I probably want to go back 3 years and see a P&L for the last 3 years.
Okay, what if before that, they had more, but for whatever reason, the last 3 years hasn't been quite that high?
It sounds like it'd be a case by case determination.
Okay,
If you
so
want to
you
talk
do have
more,
that. You'll have
it's
case by case kind of
I mean,
situation.
if you're saying, hey, I was making dog treats for at $1 million a year for 5 years, then I pivoted to dog shampoo, and it's at $25,000 a year, but we feel like that's the future of our dog products. But with that pivot is so far away from the core competency that built your venture that it's too far of a reach to say. It's not like we were at $200,000. We invested in a new product in the same space. It is a case by case, but if it's really like
Okay.
a new company and fully new services, we would treat that as a brand new venture. If it's a continuation or a pivot, we want to see how closely related it is to the former success of the venture.
Okay. So can you clarify then if it is a new venture, how how is there an impact back to the disaster?
Yeah, so the example we're using is someone who was laid off.
Mhm.
Um, that's a good example. I'm trying to think of some more that have come. That's the one that I've been hearing so far.
Okay, so you had
Or if it's the disaster, let's say this would never work, but let's say you're like, you know what, man, a food bank as a nonprofit is a bad business model. I'm going to create a for-profit food bank, which again, this will never work. You could say, hey, after the storm, it revealed a gap in the market, and therefore um, this exposed an opportunity for our community of for-profit food banks. So if you could argue that the turbulence in the external environment create a new opportunity, we could evaluate that and
okay.
justify it.
Okay, thank you.
I find entrepreneurs to be expert rationalizers, and I think you could find a way to pull disaster impact.
Thank you.
Any other final questions?
How
Hey,
how
Matt.
is how
Oh,
is
go
interest?
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How is interest so far?
Um, I've got 50 application starts. I can
Wow.
track who started an application but not finished it. I can read the finished ones.
Wow.
My goal is to take about 20 to 25 to the finals, and from there get to 13.
Okay.
So with like any other program we have, I know all the applications are going to come in the last 2, 3 days, which I don't love. Um, but it's the way it goes for this Venture 15 NC Idea. It's always like that. And I get it. If I was on the other side of this, I would take as long as possible to write. There's no advantage to getting your application in early other than the stress relief you'll have. You could also submit early and edit your application later. But I don't know, if we're at 50 now, I think we'll easily be at over 150
Wow.
3 weeks from now,
Oh
right?
my
I mean,
word. Well, that's good news to hear that there's still that much, entrepreneurial activity happening in Asheville.
mhm. And it's half our application is the same as the Asheville Recovers Together.org application. It's all the standard boilerplate stuff we need for the city funding. And the other half of our application is the same as NC Ideas application. So if you wanted to apply for their 10 or $50,000 grants, it's essentially those two applications put in one. My son, did you have a question?
Yeah, Jeffrey. Hey, how's it going?
Oh,
Thank you for
thanks.
hosting today. Very good. Lots of good information. Uh, Great to see a groundswell of entrepreneurs in the Asheville area. I have a small tech fractional CTO tech startup that's rolling. I have one main client, and I'm wondering about expanding into smaller to mid-sized businesses within the Western North Carolina regional area. Just to confirm what I'm hearing, that I feel in my view that sort of swings tech, all tech, not tech enabled. So from your point of view, would a business like that stand a chance to qualify? Like, would we have to break out
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna push back on yours a
rational?
little bit because I
Yep.
think it's a services company.
Yep.
You're probably billing time and materials as opposed to a
Yep.
product company. Hi,
Yes.
Betty. Oh, you're the
Hi,
best. Thank you.
thanks.
So it's a services company that's using technology, or if it's enabling the digital transformation or tech evolution of your clients, I'll say, I think there's an argument to make there.
Okay. All right. So you would go ahead and apply.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to online training concepts. They were a services company using technology to empower other businesses with tech.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan, no questions. Just drinking it all in, just drinking it in. Just watching the World Cup behind me, behind the screen.
Currently, thinking about how to physically relocate my business inside the Asheville city limits. And once I figure that out, I will circle back with you.
But we have 3 spots.
No, 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 I'm being
Dude, you're
cheeky.
like, what are you, 100 yards from the city limits?
I could hit a 4-iron there. Yeah,
Yeah. Who
let's be
uses a
honest.
4-iron?
I couldn't, but somebody who's good at golf could.
That's what I'd use my 3-wood. Um, that shows how much I know about golf. Shannon, Kyle, Nikki, Aaron, Troy, Bree, any questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna let you all go. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Don't hesitate to ask questions. Ask questions early and often. We exist to help. All right, bye y'all. Have a good one.